The workshop fell silent when Lena Harrow entered. Not the kind of silence that comes from respect or fear, but the peculiar hush that follows something so absurd that every mind present needs a moment to process what their eyes are reporting. The Cathari engineers, with their segmented carapaces gleaming under the harsh sodium lights, froze mid-gesture. The Vexillian welders paused their plasma torches. Even the perpetually distracted Quellan inventory keeper looked up from his holographic manifest. Lena Harrow walked into the workshop with two cubs perched on her shoulders like medals. Cub Jira clung to her left shoulder, tiny claws embedded in the reinforced fabric of Lena's work jacket, while Cub Corin occupied the right, his stubby tail wrapped around her neck like a furry scarf. Both were Ravaxi young, their orange and black striped fur still soft with youth, their eyes wide with wonder at the cavernous space filled with half-assembled starship components and the acrid smell of ozone. "Harrow," rumbled Kessex, the Cathari shift supervisor. His mandibles clicked in what might have been confusion or disapproval. "What is the meaning of this?" Lena adjusted her stance, compensating for the 30 kilograms of curious predator distributed across her upper body. "Morning, Kess. These are Jira and Corin. Their mother had to take an emergency shift at the medical bay. Station daycare's at capacity. I'm on babysitting duty. This is a restricted industrial zone," Kessex pointed out, his compound eyes somehow managing to convey skepticism despite their anatomical limitations. "There are protocols. Safety regulations. Insurance liabilities. They'll be fine." Lena strode past him toward her workstation, where the gutted remains of a quantum resonance chamber awaited her attention. Jira and Corin swiveled their heads in perfect synchronization, tracking every spark and movement like the apex predators their species would grow into. Cubs are tougher than they look. This was not, strictly speaking, accurate. Ravaxi cubs were actually quite fragile by galactic standards. Their homeworld of Ravax Prime had a gravity .73 standard, an atmosphere so clean it made Earth's pre-industrial air look like toxic sludge, and virtually no natural dangers beyond the occasional territorial dispute. The Ravaxan evolved as obligate carnivores on a world where the prey was slower, dumber, and far less aggressive than they were. Then they met humanity. The first Ravaxi diplomats who encountered humans had filed reports describing them as disturbingly durable. Subsequent interactions upgraded this assessment to unnaturally resilient and eventually possibly insane. Humans came from a death world where everything from the bacteria to the weather actively tried to kill them. They considered a 50-meter fall survivable with proper landing technique. They deliberately ingested poison for recreation and called it drinking. Their idea of bonding involved hitting each other repeatedly in controlled environments. And yet somehow they were gentle with children. Lena powered up her workstation, the holographic displays flickering to life around her. Jira made a small chirping sound of delight and reached for the floating blue schematics. Lena gently redirected the cub's paw. "No touching, little one." "Those aren't toys. Harrow, I must insist," Kessex began. "Kess, I've got 17 systems to recalibrate before the wandering star departs. And I'm already 3 hours behind because someone forgot to file the proper requisition forms for resonance crystals." Lena's tone remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. "I can do this with or without the cubs on my shoulders. Your choice which option involves less paperwork." The Cathari supervisor's antennae drooped in defeat. Everyone on station terminus knew that arguing with Lena Harrow was like arguing with a tectonic plate. Technically possible, but ultimately futile and potentially hazardous to your structural integrity. As Lena worked, something remarkable happened. The cubs didn't squirm, didn't whine, didn't demand attention or food or entertainment. They simply watched, their intelligent eyes tracking every movement of Lena's hands as she disassembled components, ran diagnostics, and reassembled systems with the practiced efficiency of someone who could repair a warp drive blindfolded. When Lena needed to reach for a tool, Jira would shift her weight to compensate. When she had to duck under a low-hanging conduit, Corin would flatten himself against her shoulder without being asked. They weren't just cargo. They were cooperating. "Remarkable," muttered Silith, a Vexillian engineer who had drifted closer to observe. Her bioluminescent patterns rippled with curiosity. "I've never seen Ravaxi young so calm." My colleague tried to hold her nephew once. The cub screamed for 40 minutes and urinated on her ceremonial robes. "They can sense stress," Lena explained, making minute adjustments to a quantum field modulator. Cubs mirror the emotional state of whoever's holding them. You approach them nervous. They get nervous. You're calm, they're calm. She glanced at Corin, who had started to doze, his small head resting against her neck. Right, buddy? Corin purred, a sound like a malfunctioning gravity generator. The shift continued. Word spread through the station about the human walking around engineering with 2 cubs on her shoulders. Scientists came to observe. Xenopsychologists took notes. The station's social media channels exploded with images and speculation. But in the workshop, something simpler was happening. Lena Harrow finished the 17th recalibration exactly on schedule. She closed the access panel on the quantum resonance chamber, ran a final diagnostic, and allowed herself a satisfied nod when all indicators pulsed green. Jira chose that moment to reach out and pat Lena's cheek with one soft paw, as if congratulating her. Thanks, Jira, Lena said softly. When Threnna, the cub's mother, arrived to collect her children, she found them still perched on Lena's shoulders, now fast asleep. The Ravaxin medics stared in disbelief. They stayed there the entire shift? Told you they'd be fine. Lena carefully extracted Corin from her shoulder, supporting his small body with practiced care, and passed him to his mother. She repeated the process with Jira. They're good kids. Little heavy after 8 hours, but good. Threnna's whiskers quivered with emotion. In Ravaxi culture, allowing someone outside the immediate family to carry one's cubs was an extraordinary gesture of trust. To have them accepted, protected, and return content was something else entirely. Thank you, Threnna whispered, her voice thick. I don't know how to repay. Buy me a beer sometime, Lena interrupted with a grin, and maybe teach these 2 to control their claws. My jacket's going to need patching. As Threnna departed with her sleeping cubs, Kessex approached Lena's workstation. His mandibles worked silently for a moment before he spoke. That was acceptable, he admitted grudgingly. Lena laughed, the sound echoing through the workshop. High praise from you, Kess. Do not, the supervisor added firmly. Make it a habit. But they both knew she would if necessary. That was the thing about humans. They built starships and split atoms, yes. They conquered worlds and defied physics. But they also carried cubs on their shoulders like medals, wearing the tiny claw marks as badges of honor. Perhaps that was what truly made them frightening. Not their durability or their death world origins, but their capacity to be both unbreakable and gentle. To walk into a workshop designed for the hardest work in the galaxy and emerge with nothing more damaged than a jacket and everything more protected than before. The human walked into the workshop, and for 8 hours, the workshop became a little bit safer for everyone in it. Even the cubs,